The text arrived in the middle of a busy afternoon at my boutique, slipping between customer inquiries and polite smiles. I'm leaving you. Moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. Already emptied our joint account. Haha. My hands remained steady. My voice stayed smooth as I helped Mrs. Peterson pick out a scarf, wrapped it in our signature silver paper, and thanked her for her purchase. The only sign that my husband of 12 years had just torched our marriage via text was the slight tightening around my eyes. I waited until the store was empty before responding. Good luck. My name is Claire. I'm 38 years old, and today I received the most callous goodbye in history. But while Mark was likely basking in his grand exit, imagining me dissolving into tears over his betrayal, I was calmly locking up my boutique for the day. The signs had been there for months. The late nights that didn't match his paycheck, the sudden phone password changes, the gym obsession, the new clothes. 3 months ago, I found a receipt for dinner for 2 at an upscale restaurant on a night he'd claimed to be working late. That same night, I opened a private bank account. A week later, when he suggested merging our finances to simplify things, I cheerfully agreed, while quietly transferring my savings elsewhere. The joint account he had just emptied, it held only enough to keep him from getting suspicious, about 2 months' worth of deposits. The rest was safe, along with a meticulously kept record of his suspicious transactions over the past year. Another text buzzed in. Don't bother begging. Melissa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later. Melissa, the new receptionist at his office. I'd met her at the company Christmas party. Watched her laugh too hard at Mark's jokes. Noticed how she touched his arm when she thought no one was looking. She was young enough to be his daughter. Naive enough to think she was special. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my lawyer, the one I consulted 2 months ago when I found hotel charges on our credit card. It's time, I said simply. The papers are ready. I'll file first thing tomorrow. Want him served in Miami? She asked. No rush. Let him think he's won first. Another buzz. I know this must be hard for you. You're not getting any younger after all. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy. My little shop. The boutique I built from nothing. The business that earned more than his middle management salary. The one whose profits I'd always kept separate from our finances. I smiled, thinking about the certified letters waiting for him in Miami. That evening, I stayed in our house, my house. The one I inherited from my grandmother. The one I'd kept solely in my name despite Mark's persistent suggestions to add him to the deed. Another lucky instinct that had paid off. While gathering paperwork for my lawyer, I found our wedding album. Mark looked different back then, before his midlife crisis had turned him into a parody of himself. These days, he wore shirts too tight for his softening waistline, tried too hard to connect with 20-somethings at his office, and used slang that sounded ridiculous coming from a 45-year-old man. My phone kept buzzing. More condescending texts. I've been planning this for months. Melissa understands me in ways you never could. You'll be fine. Maybe you'll find someone your own age. Already told my family. They agree we grew apart. No one's to blame. I screenshot every message and added them to my evidence folder. Let him dig his own grave. My lawyer would love his casual confession of premeditation and financial misconduct. Then came the final gem. By the way, I used the joint card to book our flights and hotel. Consider it my parting gift. LOL. Perfect. I called the credit card company. Mrs. Harrison speaking. I need to report fraudulent charges and cancel a card. Of course, ma'am. Can you identify the charges? 2 first-class tickets to Miami booked today. A hotel reservation at the Royal Palm. Also, I need to remove my husband as an authorized user. Do you have documentation of the fraud? Yes. Text messages from my husband admitting he used our joint card to book travel with his girlfriend after draining our bank account. I can forward them. The representative's professional tone couldn't quite mask her satisfaction. We'll process that immediately. The charges will be reversed, and the card canceled. Mark and Melissa would arrive at the airport tomorrow to find their tickets invalid. Their hotel reservation gone. One more text from Mark. Don't worry about the house. I'll let you stay there until you find something smaller. I actually laughed out loud at that one. Did he really think he had any claim to my grandmother's house? Had his ego grown, so massive that he'd forgotten whose name was on the deed? Another buzz. And I know the shop means a lot to you. We can work out a fair payment for your half. My half of my business, the one I built, funded, and grew while he mocked it as my hobby. I poured myself a glass of the good wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. Tomorrow, Mark would learn a few hard truths about property law, separate assets, and consequences. But tonight I'd celebrate. Morning arrived with a flurry of increasingly angry texts from Mark. What the hell did you do to our credit card? The airline won't honor our tickets. The hotel canceled our reservation. Answer me. I silenced my phone and headed to my boutique. Friday was always our busiest day, and I had a new shipment of designer handbags to unpack. Life goes on, even when your husband runs off with a receptionist young enough to be his daughter. Around noon, his mother called. Claire, dear, Mark told us everything. How controlling you've been, how you drove him away. He says you're being vindictive now, causing problems with his travel plans. I put her on speaker while arranging a window display. Did he mention emptying our joint account and charging tickets for him and his girlfriend on our credit card? Silence. Then, well, he said you left him no choice, that you'd been cold and distant. Barbara, I have his texts. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he bragged about taking our money. Or maybe the one where he mocked my age. Another pause. He did seem a bit cruel. I told him that text message was inappropriate. I appreciate the call, Barbara. I've always liked you, but I think it's best if we end this conversation now. My lawyer has advised minimal contact with Mark's family during the proceedings. Proceedings? Already. Goodbye, Barbara. By late afternoon, Mark's sister Amanda was spreading gossip through mutual friends. Apparently, Mark and Melissa were stuck in a budget motel near the airport, their Miami dreams temporarily derailed. He had tried using his personal credit cards, but they had been maxed out for months. Another red flag I'd noticed. My lawyer called with an update. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Monday. Given his admission of emptying the joint account and the documented credit card fraud, we're in a strong position to freeze all remaining assets. Has he been served yet? Not yet, but he'll get the papers at his new motel address. Speaking of which, his girlfriend's social media is proving to be excellent evidence. She's been posting about their adventure all day, including some choice comments about you. I smiled, thinking of my own documentation. A year's worth of suspicious charges, hotel receipts, and text messages proving premeditation. Mark had been so focused on his grand escape that he'd never considered I might be watching, waiting, preparing. Another text from Mark. You think you're so smart, but I made copies of all the boutique's financial records. Half that business is mine. I forwarded the text to my lawyer, adding it to the growing file of Mark's mistakes. Let him learn the hard way about separate assets and business ownership. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply being prepared. Monday's emergency hearing was everything I could have hoped for. Mark arrived in his new wardrobe, designer jeans too tight for his age, a blazer that screamed midlife crisis. Melissa waited outside, her youth painfully obvious under the harsh courthouse lighting. My lawyer presented our evidence methodically, Mark's gleeful texts about emptying our account, his credit card fraud, his hidden expenses, each piece carefully collected over months of quiet observation. Your Honor, Mark's hastily hired lawyer attempted, my client admits to some rash decisions, but Mrs. Harrison's actions have been vindictive and calculating. Calculating, my lawyer countered. You mean prudent? My client protected her separate assets and maintained detailed records of her husband's suspicious behavior. That's not vindictive, that's smart business. The judge reviewed my documentation, the separate property deed to the house, the boutique's incorporation papers in my name only, the careful separation of business and personal finances that Mark had always complained about. Mr. Harrison, the judge addressed Mark directly. You admitted via text message to deliberately emptying a joint account and using shared credit cards to fund a trip with your girlfriend. Do you deny this? Mark shifted uncomfortably. I was just trying to make a clean break. By committing financial fraud? The judge raised an eyebrow. And now you're claiming rights to property that documentation clearly shows is separate from marital assets? The business grew during our marriage, Mark's lawyer argued. My client is entitled to. The business was established before the marriage. My lawyer interrupted. and Mrs. Harrison maintained strict separation of business and personal finances throughout. We have documentation of every penny invested and earned. I watched as reality sank in for Mark. He had assumed this would be easy. Empty our accounts, run off with his girlfriend, claim half my business in the divorce. He had never understood my insistence on keeping things separate. He had mocked my meticulous bookkeeping as obsessive. The court finds sufficient evidence of financial misconduct, the judge announced. All shared assets are frozen pending final dissolution. Mr. Harrison is ordered to return any funds removed from joint accounts within 24 hours. But that money's gone, Mark protested. We spent it on. Then I suggest you find a way to replace it. The judge cut him off. And Mr. Harrison, the court takes a very dim view of using shared credit cards to fund adventures with a paramour. Outside the courthouse, I heard Melissa asking Mark about their Miami plans. His response was lost in the sound of my heels clicking confidently across the marble floor as I walked away, back to the business he had never understood or respected. The next few weeks brought a string of increasingly desperate moves from Mark. He tried claiming the boutique had been his idea. He insisted he had invested money in its early days. He even suggested he had been my business partner all along, claims quickly disproven by my meticulous records. In the end, he was left with nothing but the consequences of his own choices. And I had my business, my home, my future, intact, secure, and completely my own. Mark's downfall was almost poetic. His grand escape with Melissa had turned into a slow-motion train wreck, and I had front-row seats. He's getting desperate, my lawyer remarked, forwarding me a screenshot of Melissa's latest social media post. Apparently, their glamorous new life had shrunk to a cramped studio apartment, and the reality of living on a receptionist's salary was sinking in fast. His family's attitude shifted dramatically. We had no idea, his sister Amanda admitted over the phone. He told us you were controlling, that he needed to escape, but then we saw his texts, the way he bragged about taking your money. That's not the brother I thought I knew. Even his mother, once so eager to believe his version, called me in tears. The things he said about your age, about replacing you with someone younger, I raised him better than that, or at least I thought I did. Their concern might have meant something before, but now it just felt like rats deserting a sinking ship. I let their messages go unanswered. Meanwhile, my boutique thrived, ironically fueled by local gossip. Women came in specifically to show support, often leaving with more than they planned. My ex tried the same thing, one customer confided while buying a designer handbag. Thought he'd take everything in the divorce. Men like that never expect us to be smarter than them. Mark still texted occasionally, swinging between anger and manipulation. You ruined everything. I never meant to hurt you. You'll regret being so vindictive. Can't we work something out? That business would be nothing without my support. I forwarded each message to my lawyer without responding. Let him dig his hole deeper. Through the grapevine, I heard Melissa was having second thoughts. Apparently, sharing her tiny apartment with a broke, middle-aged man wasn't quite the adventure she'd imagined. The exciting age gap had started to feel like a chasm. She posted about toxic relationships and learning from mistakes yesterday, my lawyer mentioned during an update call, and removed her relationship status this morning. I almost felt sorry for Mark. Almost. Then I remembered his haha after draining our account, the way he mocked my age, and how he assumed I'd be helpless without him. Instead of pity, I felt pride. Pride in my foresight, my strength, and my ability to protect myself while he underestimated me. By the final divorce hearing, Mark's confidence had vanished. Melissa was nowhere to be seen. She'd moved on to a coworker her own age, according to office gossip. Mark had even ditched the designer wardrobe, likely returned to repay what he owed. His lawyer looked exhausted, no doubt from trying to poke holes in my meticulously kept records. Your Honor, his lawyer attempted. Despite the separate property documentation, my client contributed to the growth of his wife's business through moral support. My lawyer raised an eyebrow. Moral support? Like these text messages belittling Mrs. Harrison's business as a little shop, or these social media posts calling it her hobby? The judge had seen enough. The final settlement reflected my careful planning. I kept my house, my business, and my separate assets. Mark walked away with his personal possessions and his car, which was worth less than he owed on it. You've destroyed me, he hissed as we left the courthouse. "I have to move back in with my parents." "No, Mark. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure you couldn't take me down with you." His mother was waiting outside, ready to drive him to his new home, his childhood bedroom. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who mocked my age was now living with his mother at 45, while I thrived. He turned to me one last time. "You planned this all along. You knew this would happen." I smiled. "No, Mark. I just paid attention. And unlike you, I understood the value of keeping good records." His mother sighed. "That's enough, Mark. You've embarrassed yourself enough already." As they walked away, I heard her start in on him. "Honestly, what were you thinking? A 20-year-old, emptying bank accounts, sending those horrible texts." I watched them disappear into the parking lot, feeling nothing but relief. Mark thought he was writing the ending to our story with that cruel text. Instead, he had only set my carefully laid plans in motion. 6 months after my divorce was finalized, my boutique had expanded to a second location. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Mark struggled to rebuild his life, the little shop he had dismissed was thriving. I had hired 3 new employees and launched an online store that was gaining national traction. News of Mark's situation trickled back through mutual acquaintances. He had tried dating apps, but women his age weren't interested in a middle-aged man living with his parents, and younger women, having heard the office gossip, steered clear. Melissa had apparently warned her friends about him, even sharing screenshots of his desperate attempts to win her back after she left. His career had taken a hit as well. The company's HR department launched an investigation into his relationship with a subordinate, resulting in a formal reprimand. The promotion he had been expecting went to someone else, someone without a history of inappropriate office relationships. He actually tried to claim age discrimination, Amanda told me during an unexpected visit to the boutique. Said they were punishing him for dating someone younger. HR just added that complaint to his file. I was surprised to see his sister in my store, but her presence spoke volumes about how thoroughly Mark had alienated his own family. She ran her fingers over a silk scarf before admitting, "I know we didn't support you at first." He played the victim so well, but watching how he handled everything after, I'm ashamed we ever believed him. Meanwhile, my lawyer kept me updated on Mark's continued attempts to challenge the divorce settlement. Each petition was denied, his claims of unfair distribution dismissed based on the evidence of his own actions. He actually argued that his text about emptying the account was a joke, she told me, laughing. The judge asked if haha made theft less illegal. The boutique's success brought unexpected validation. Local business magazines wanted to feature my story, not as a scorned ex-wife, but as a savvy entrepreneur who had protected her interests. Young entrepreneurs sought my advice, eager to learn how to keep their business and personal finances separate. "The best protection is preparation," I told one woman who reminded me of Melissa. "And always trust your instincts." Mark's mother called occasionally, usually after he had done something particularly self-destructive. He had tried online gambling, hoping for a quick fix to his financial problems. He had even gotten involved with a pyramid scheme that promised fast returns. Each attempt to recover his former lifestyle just dug him deeper into trouble. "I don't know where we went wrong with him," she sighed during one call. His father and I offered to help him get back on his feet if he'd just take responsibility for his actions. But he's still blaming everyone else. You, Melissa, his company, the judge. I listened politely but maintained my distance. Their family drama wasn't my problem anymore. My life had moved forward, filled with plans for a third boutique location and a possible expansion into luxury accessories. The only reminder of Mark's impact on my life was a framed screenshot hanging in my office, his final text before I blocked his number. "Have fun with your little shop. At least it'll keep you busy in your old age." Below it sat my latest business award, proof that sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding on your own terms. 1 year after the divorce, I hosted a grand opening for my third boutique location. The event attracted local media, but the story they wanted to tell wasn't about my failed marriage. It was about a successful businesswoman expanding her brand. Mark's betrayal had become a mere footnote in my success story. During the event, Melissa unexpectedly walked in. She looked younger than ever, or maybe I just felt that much stronger. She shifted uncomfortably, clutching her purse like a shield. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. I believed everything he told me about how you were cold, controlling, how you didn't support his dreams. Then I watched him try the same manipulation tactics on me when things got tough. I continued arranging a display of designer sunglasses. Those weren't his dreams, Melissa. They were escapes. There's a difference. I know that now. She hesitated, then added, he tried to move in when you froze the accounts. Thought my studio apartment would be temporary. After 2 weeks of him complaining about the size of my closet and suggesting I take out a loan for a bigger place, I understood what you meant about the difference between dreams and escapes. I actually laughed at that. Let me guess. He had big plans but no way to fund them. Exactly. Everything was going to work out once his investments paid off, once he got that promotion, once his cryptocurrency definitely increased in value. She shook her head. I'm dating someone my own age now. We have student loans and a small apartment, but at least we're building something real. After she left, my assistant manager whispered, Was that the girlfriend? No, I replied. That was just another woman who learned the same lesson I did. Speaking of lessons, I gestured to a young couple examining our designer handbags. Let's talk about your idea for expanding our accessories line. The boutique had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of independence, resilience, and the power of preparation. Young entrepreneurs often sought my advice, and I always emphasized the importance of protecting their assets. Mark's mother called one last time, not to discuss Mark, but to thank me. You taught our family an important lesson, she said, about enabling bad behavior, about making excuses for cruelty. Mark's still living at home, still blaming everyone else for his problems. But we're not defending him anymore. That's your legacy to our family. The difference between supporting someone and enabling them became clear as I reviewed plans for my 4th boutique location. Mark had meant to diminish me, to trade me in for someone younger while taking half of everything I'd built. Instead, he had unknowingly propelled me to become stronger, more successful, and more independent than ever before. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Mark filed another petition to revisit the settlement. The judge dismissed it immediately and ordered him to pay court costs. Thought you'd enjoy that. I smiled, picturing Mark still in his childhood bedroom, desperately trying to rewrite an ending that had been sealed the moment he underestimated me. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. 2 years after Mark's cruel text message, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. The topic wasn't divorce or betrayal, it was about building and protecting a successful business. My story had evolved from a cautionary tale to an inspiration. During the Q&A session, a woman raised her hand. My husband says I'm being paranoid for keeping our finances separate. He believes marriage means sharing everything. I smiled knowingly. My ex-husband said the same thing, right up until he tried to claim half my business in our divorce. Trust your instincts. Protection isn't paranoia. The boutique chain had since grown to 5 locations, each more successful than the last. The little shop, Mark had mocked, now employed 30 people and had been featured in national magazines. Through mutual friends, I heard Mark had finally moved out of his parents' house into a small apartment above a garage. His former company had downsized, eliminating his position. His dating profile still described him as young at heart, though the outdated photo told a different story. Ironically, Melissa had become a regular customer at my original boutique. She had earned her business degree and launched her own social media consulting company. You inspired me, she admitted once. You showed me what it means to build something lasting instead of falling for empty promises. I kept Mark's cruel text framed in my office, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of how far I had come. Beneath it hung a sign that read, "Success is the best revenge." At the 5-year anniversary celebration of my flagship boutique, I stood before my employees and customers, reflecting on the journey that had led me here. What had started as a single shop was now the foundation of a thriving business empire. Unexpectedly, Mark's mother attended. Though I hadn't invited her, she waited until the crowd thinned before approaching me. "I saw Mark yesterday," she said, smoothing her designer dress, one she had bought from my store. He was reminiscing about his glory days, about the life he could have had. He still doesn't understand that he didn't lose everything in the divorce. He threw it away. I thought back to that infamous text message, the one meant to break me. Mark had assumed I would crumble, that I would beg for him to stay, proving his belief that I needed him. Instead, I had built something far stronger than before. Each boutique location was a testament to what women could achieve when they stopped dimming their light for insecure men. The young sales associate I had recently hired, coincidentally also named Melissa, approached with a question about the new inventory system. As I explained the process, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the store window. I saw what Mark had failed to see 5 years ago, not a woman getting older, but one getting wiser, stronger, more successful. His cruel text had been meant as an ending. Instead, it had been my beginning. Not just for me, but for every woman who heard my story and realized she deserved better than being someone else's midlife crisis.